very good evening and a welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Red and Blue Review. As for the first of two consecutive weeks, thank you to Sky Sports. Palace are the subject of Monday night football. Although according to some who watched on TV last night, you might have thought that there was only one side playing and they were based in West London. I've drawn the short straw. My name's Ian Noble and I'll be hosting this evening on this edition of the Red and Blue Review. Well, welcome to all Palace fans watching live or the recorded version, whether you're a regular watcher of the pod or indeed whether you're new around here. Please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across the usual social media of Facebook, Twitter or X and Instagram. Thanks to Tom Clark-Samuel for managing the Instagram account. Good to see you, Tom, before the game last night. So joining me on the show this evening, a near neighbour behind enemy lines down here in East Sussex is Fergus Tidd. Hello, Ferg. How are you?
I am. Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, rush back for London, just especially to be on the show.
Down from London in Sussex. That's what I like. And a late replacement for Jill Holyoke, who failed a fitness test, is the singer-songwriter guy from Reading, Greg Ellis. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Yeah. One day we're going to get you to sing a song on this show. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, that'll take us offline, I think. It'd be like the Millennium Bug.
There we go. And finally, making up the quartet, as you can see this evening, a special welcome back to the legend. That is Jim Cannon. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good evening, all.
Good evening. Good of you to join us. We had we were a little bit worried about you earlier on because you were a little bit late to the party for the pre-show meeting, but no worries. You're here now.
I've had to do it on my phone. My computer, I could get in, I could hear you, but nothing was happening. So
it's a good job we didn't say anything derogatory about you then. But there we go. There we go. Well, welcome to everyone watching. Great to see you all joining us this evening on the pod. We're going to go straight into the game from last night. And I'm going to do this slightly differently because although I'm hosting, I'm going to do the main game tonight, and then I'm just going to get you guys to come in and chat. So we're just going to have an informal chat about the game. And if you've got any comments in the chat, especially about the things that we're going to be asking you questions about, then do comment as we go through the evening. So the result last night, guys, it now makes it 14 consecutive defeats to Chelsea, 13 in the Premier League, and one cup semi-final. We last recorded a victory 2-1 on the 14th of October 2017, which was significant in itself. Do you know why that was significant, that win, Fergus? Any idea? Or anybody? Greg, Jim, why was that win significant in October 2017? Anyone in the chat know the answer to that question?
We won.
Have we?
Was it an own goal or something?
No. I'll tell you why it was significant. It was the first points of the 2017-18 season after the opening 4 games of the Frank de Boer debacle. And then Roy came in as our saviour for the first time. He lost his first 3 games. And then on I think it was the 8th game or the 7th game we played, it was Roy's first win. Thank you, real panel, for that. I knew you'd know the answer. And we won 2-1. I think Zaha got one of them. And it was a really good occasion. But that was the last time we beat Chelsea in any competition. So let's have a look at the team selection, first of all. I like your reaction, guys, as to when that team was announced at 7 o'clock last night. What were your thoughts? Greg Ellis, first of all.
I think I would like to have seen Ozo. I was really happy to see France and Wharton start. I think I would have preferred to see Ozo in place of Hughes, but I can completely understand why Roy would have sort of fallen back on the more experienced Hughes. But I mean, otherwise, I think it's probably the best it could have been.
Yeah, good. Fergus, do you agree with Greg? What was your view?
No, I was quite happy to see Wharton and France there. I think the only other change I would have made would have been for the goalkeeper. I think maybe Johnson should have come in. I guess Hughes was a safe bet because Eze and Elise are out. He's played number 10 before, hasn't he? But I mean, you could have actually probably put Wharton there and stuck Hughes in centre mid, maybe would have had a little bit more of an attacking number 10. But it was nice to see the youngsters get a chance. And I kind of agree with Greg. Ozone needs to be in there as well. And I've heard Hughes is injured now, so that might actually happen.
Yeah, he was taken off because he was injured, apparently. He was limping for about 10 minutes before he went off, if you noticed last night. We'll come to that a little bit later. What was the mood like in the lounges, Jim, when the team was announced last night?
Yeah, I think they were all, I mean, we all keep on about we want the sort of younger fraternity to get a game. And I suppose that includes França. Yeah, it was, I mean, the only change I would have made is exactly what you just said there. I've got no sort of like, Henderson gives me kittens, nothing else. He stands on his line. He doesn't come out for anything. And that would have been the team I would have picked, but I would have put Johnston in.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there are I've seen some stats on social media about the goalkeepers and the comparison of their performances this season. I think Johnson had 5 clean sheets. I'm not sure Henderson's had any clean sheets since he's been in goal. Johnson had done nothing wrong until he got injured against Liverpool. And yet, there's some people are saying, well, look, you know, it's an uneven playing field because Johnson had Doucouré in front of him, in front of the back four, and you know, we had a better, more solid defence earlier in the season. What would you say to that, Jim? Would you agree with that, or would you think that's a load of rubbish?
A load of rubbish. I think the back four as a whole aren't as good as what they were when Johnson was playing. But I look at that and I think that's down to a lot to the goalkeeper making sure that people in the right positions, doing the marking and keeping them away from the danger area, which is anywhere inside that 18-yard penalty spot to the 6-yard box. And you've only got to watch corners and stuff. Everybody just goes and stand there because he just gets lost. I look at him and I think it's like a 16-year-old kid, school kid, sort of standing with adults, sort of like playing football. He doesn't show any authority. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a good shot stopper, but Johnson's an England goalkeeper. I mean, are they playing him because they spent 20 million on him?
Well,
I don't know.
There is that thought that the reason he's playing him is because he costs 20 million and he's one of the top earners at the club. Rob Cranfield says Henderson can't command the box and looks like a rabbit in car headlights. And I think many would agree with you there, Rob. Fergus.
I was just going to say, you need to bring in the fact that Doucouré's been missing for a big chunk of that. And he sits in front of that back four. And I think our back four have been a lot more exposed since he's been missing. So really, could you put it all down to Henderson? I think maybe 80%, yes. Maybe 20% is just the fact that, you know, we're not as strong in defence without Doucouré. But he does, I agree with a lot of the comments. I just think Henderson's, he doesn't fill you with confidence. Like Jim said, it just makes you feel nervous. Whereas Johnson commands his box. And of course, he's got his own song as well that we can sing. I don't think we've got one for Henderson, have we? So.
No, we haven't. No. Ian Roberts says, get John Burridge in as the goalkeeping coach, Jim. What do you reckon about that?
Well, yeah, I see John's comments a lot on Facebook, and he's not enamoured with the way teams play out of the back, especially the goalkeeper. So I think he might have a bit. I mean, when we played with John Burridge, I'll tell you what, when you could hear him, you just got out of his way. All we done is went behind him because he would come out for anything and everything, and he would take whatever was in front of him. And if that was his own players and the centre forward, you all went. But you knew where you stood. You know, like he kept you away from him. You didn't want to get near him because you know you were going to get clumped.
Absolutely. And they do say that goalkeepers are a little bit different and a little bit mad. But Budgie was definitely mad, wasn't he? You know, he was a bit bonkers, wasn't he? You know, his warm-up routines and things, you know. So, yeah, happy days. So I think the consensus is, you know, amongst us guys and in the chat is that Sam Johnston should be selected in goal for Crystal Palace. You know, he was picked, obviously, in the cup match at Everton. That's the only game he's played since he's been back from the injury. And of course, we go to Everton next Monday. And I think we'd all love to see him back in goal for that one. So that aside, that was the team selection. Nice, just put it back up, if you'd be so kind, before we get into the game itself. And I agree with the guys. I think it was a good team selection. Interesting that Anderson got the armband in the absence of the other 3 or 4 players that have captained the side this season that were unfit and unable to play last night. So Chelsea, of course, had much of the ball in the early exchanges, but Palace had some good moments early on, I thought, albeit that the shots that we did have were soft. Ayew had a soft shot on target. Hughes' free kick from the right was floated in. Someone got their head on it, but it was wide. Mateta probably had the best opening early on, but again, it was a soft shot, easily dealt with. And then, of course, on the half hour came Lerma's goal. What did you make of the goal? Let's come to Fergus first. Talk us through your understanding of this goal and what happened. I've actually watched it from about 61 angles on the Palace player thing tonight. 5 minutes of it.
Well, Mateta had another solid game, and he crossed the ball. Chelsea cleared it, and he went for the spectacular, didn't he? He went for jumped in the air, tried to scissor kick, backfired massively. Chelsea won the ball back temporarily, and then Mitchell won the ball back almost straight away. And of course, it fell to Lerma, and then he seemed to have quite a lot of time, looked up. And great shot straight into the top corner. Really, really good goal. And I don't think Chelsea had shot on target in the first half. So I think we'd had all the chances despite not having all the possession. So it was a quality finish. And that's what we need to see from there. We need to see more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the posh seats, how did you celebrate last night, Jim?
How did I celebrate? Well, it's nice to see a goal go in. It was a good goal. I mean, there was a bit of, they were complaining that I thought VAR might have got involved because they were complaining. I mean, there was obviously Mitchell and Lerma there, and I don't know what Chelsea player it was, but they just got him out of the way basically. But I think it was fair, and to be fair, the referee just carried on, no problem. And Lerma, that was a great goal. I mean, I could see I was right, sort of.
Oh, he's frozen. He's frozen. Jim's frozen. That doesn't happen very often, does it? Oh, Jim, you're frozen. So
obviously you mentioned Mateta earlier. Mateta's been brilliant. I mean, I'm his biggest critic.
Jim, my friend, you keep freezing. I hope you can hear us. So we're just going to talk a little bit
with his work rate. But he got that great chance. He went through, and that's where he'll fall down. And that's why we're probably not a better team than what we are, because we don't score the goals that we should score when you only get 1 or 2 chances against teams like that.
Thanks, Jim. You did freeze for some of that. I don't know if you heard us say, but don't worry, we got the gist of what you were saying. That Mateta obviously needs to take those chances a bit better. Facebook user says, I was in line of it. What a shot. When it left his foot, it took off like a Jefferson airplane. I like what you did there. Very good, very good. Greg, any other alternative thoughts on the goal?
Do you know what? When he went for the spectacular, as Ferg mentioned, it was just one of those moments where you just thought, I couldn't believe it. And, fortunately, I think it's Madueke. He just sort of, let's go with the possession. And I had no expectations whatsoever. And you could see, the second he hit it, you thought, that's going to go well. And then I did not expect it to hit the net. I thought it would just sort of rose ed, And when it hit the net, I was more surprised than anything, if I'm honest. It was a lovely finish, though. It was no saving that whatsoever.
Yeah, I nearly fell over actually in the celebrations. I'm on the end of a row, so I stood up and I nearly fell over. I managed just to save myself. We were all a bit mad, but like you, Jim, I just thought for a horrible moment, a VAR going to get involved? Is there a foul in the build-up that we haven't seen? But it was quite special because from where I'm sitting in the main stand, I was right behind it, and it was brilliant. So it was good work initially, of course, by Tyrick Mitchell from left back to win the ball that played Mateta down the line in the first instance, as Fergus has said. Chelsea didn't properly clear their lines following a comical, almost air shot from Lerma before he struck gold. Tyrick Mitchell and Lerma won the ball back between them before Lerma recorded his first goal for Palace. Now, I want to ask you another question, guys. What else was significant about Lerma's goal last night? Anybody know?
Didn't he score an almost identical goal against Palace for Bournemouth?
He might have done, but that's not the right answer.
His first goal for Palace, wasn't it?
It was his first goal for Palace. Yeah, we've said that. What else was significant? Anyone in the chat know what was significant about Lerma's goal last night? Here we go. Rob Donovan, Paul Bristow, they're onto it. It was Palace's 1,000th top flight goal. Easy for me to say. Put my teeth back in. And Nigel has got some stats for us here. So I'm just going to have a quick closer look at this. And the first goal, Jim, did you know this? A bit before your time, actually, wasn't it? Mel Blythe scored the first one. Jerry Queen got the 100th goal against Coventry. And a certain Ian Wright, your mate, Jim, he got 250th goal. Dean Gordon from left back got the 500th goal. And James Tompkins, still with the club, of course, on the bench last night, got the 750th. And Lerma gets the 1,000. So it was a significant landmark. And loads of people are saying it in the chat now. George, Stephen Isles, Gary Fisher, Paul Holden, thank you. Keith Parker, well done, everyone. Rob Cranfield. Greg.
There's a good comment by Lee Lockwood, and I'm searching my mind for previous South American players. But he's saying, is it the first goal by a South American? And I'm racking my brain. I'm thinking Ivan Cavier.
Yeah, Moritz was
Brazilian.
Did he score in the top flight though?
No, yeah, that's the very true. No, he didn't come up with us, did he? He left in the season or after the playoff final. So yeah, I was just trying to think of old South American players, if I'm honest. Ivan Caviedes was the first one that came to mind.
Well, if anyone else knows in the chat whether a South American has scored in the Premier League for us, I'm sure Paul Bristow or Real Panel will tell us. They normally do. Tommy Samuel said Sorondo. Where was he from? No idea. Anyway, the right answer. Oh, was he a day? The right answer was 1,000th top flight goal last night by Lerma. And I wonder if they talked about it before the game. They probably didn't, did they? That would be silly. So the goal goes in. We're 1-0 up, and everything is rosy in the garden in Selhurst Park. I thought France had carried the ball quite well last night. Got up the field quite well. Chelsea had the last chance of the first half. Gallagher pulling his shot wide just before half time. And there's an interesting stat. Well, let me ask you the question again then. There was an interesting stat that was put about on social media yesterday about Chelsea's first half performance. Anybody know what that stat was?
They had 80% possession, no shot on target.
They did have 80% possession and no shot on target. But the stat referred to the fact they had the most passes in any Premier League half without scoring a goal. Bizarre. Anyway.
Or without having a shot on target.
Well, I don't know about that. Without scoring a goal, that was the stat. Okay. So they had the most Premier League passes in a half of football in the Premier League ever without scoring a goal. Who looks these things up? That's what I want to know. They want to get out more, don't they? There we are. Such is life. Is he a Nobler teacher or something? No, I'm not. But thanks for that, mate. There we go. Right. Okay. I just thought it'd involve people, I thought that was a good thing to do. So second half started after some delay. What was it like watching on TV, guys? Greg, you're the MOTD fan.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there was just a bit of confusion, really. I think initially, and there just seemed to be sort of hanging by the tunnel. I was probably in the midst of sorting out my coffee and a donut whilst that was happening, so that gave me a bit of a breather there. But yeah, it was a bit of fumbling going on. I'm not sure.
Well, it certainly allowed all the Prawn Sandwich Brigade to get back to their seats because normally they're still taking their seats, aren't they? Sort of 4 or 5 minutes into the second half. Were you all seated, Jim, by the time you kicked off in the second half?
No. Well, I was seated, but I was sitting down having a drink in Speroni's. I was watching on the telly, but I got up. By the time I got up, which was only 5-10 minutes into the second half, I still thought it was 1-0. I didn't even know they'd scored. Somebody said to me, "No, it's 1-0." So yeah, so I missed the goal.
Classic.
Jim, do they still ring that little bell at half time when the players are coming out?
No, not anywhere near us. No.
Obviously, at half time, when there was the delay, it was all to do with Michael Oliver's radio mic into the VAR studio, wasn't it? To keep in touch with him, it wasn't working properly, so he had to go off the pitch and probably have his Duracell batteries changed or something. But anyway, the delay was about 5 or 6 minutes, and then so somebody at Palace decided to play Three Little Birds on the tannoy, on the loudspeaker system, and of course we're all singing along, thinking that this is a bit of fun. But it wasn't a bit of fun because Chelsea just carried on singing it into the second half and got really loud with it and added their own slant on it. And I'm thinking they've nicked our soul. And of course, it took Chelsea just 90 seconds to equalise. Not that Jim knew, of course, from the lounge. 90 seconds. It was a cross from their right into the danger area. Conor Gallagher, unchallenged, 1-1. Dean Henderson, should he have done better, Fergus?
Well, he never comes for the ball, does he? So,
well, it was a long way out. But, yeah, do you think he should have stopped?
It was. Well, in his defence, I think there was a defender in front of him, but it seemed to go into the middle of the goal. Now, if he's not saving that, where's he standing? Because you should be standing in the middle of the goal, shouldn't he? But he probably should have saved it. But I do think he was unsighted. In his defence,
Greg.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's. I know he's not necessarily flavour of the week at the moment, but I think I'd probably err on and agree with Ferg. I think he's possibly a bit unsighted, but I think he's right to point out the positioning. Really, the ball's going to come quick, but if you're not, I think it just went through him, didn't it?
Yeah, interesting. Sorry, Greg, go on.
I think the biggest frustration for me at the moment is the amount of goals that are scored in the first minute, the 45th minute, the 46th minute, and the 90th minute. I'm finding that really, really challenging as a Palace fan, because I just think that's a complete lack of discipline within the side to manage, those first few minutes of either the restart or coming to half time. There must be some experienced players in that side that can just say to the team, look, time's up, or let's go out there and hold ourselves for a few minutes. But we've seen it against Sheffield United and obviously last night. I was angry, to be honest, that they'd scored. I mean, if they'd have scored 10 minutes after the restart, not so much. But I just don't think that we're doing ourselves any favours.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I don't think many would disagree with you on that. Interesting, there's a split opinion in the chat. Dawn Palace says no one's stopping that. Lee Lockwood said it went straight through him. Paul Holden says he should our defence have done better. Dawn says Guita would have got it. So, interesting. There's different opinions there.
Dave Campion says beaten by power. And that's probably show you. I mean, he hit it hard.
So, I think in the ground, I'm thinking... I don't think he's at fault necessarily, but looking back on it, he might be looking back at it himself, thinking he could and should have done better. And we'll come to the second goal in a bit. Okay, so following the goal, we had a few moments after that, I think. Our heads didn't drop. It would have been easy, I think. Suddenly we lost our lead to drop our heads. And Chelsea, really come at us. And of course, they did have some chances. We defended reasonably well in the second half, I thought. France had a moment where he played Mateta into a good position. It was blocked by Silva. Really good block. I think he probably just took one touch too many, almost in the inside left position. Silva, as a result, went off injured. From the subsequent corner, Hughes had a decent corner. Now, I was interested because Hughes was on set pieces last night. What do you think about Hughes on set pieces when he's playing? Would you leave him on set pieces when the likes of Elise and Eze are back, or would you not? Greg, what are your thoughts on that one?
No, I think you've got to have your. I think Elise and Eze have got to be on those. You know, we've seen the Man United free kick, and was it Eze the other day? I think you've got to have your flair players on those. No disrespect to Hughes, I just think you know. At the moment, goals are hard to come by, and I think that when there's an opportunity like that, you've got to get your top players on those. And
okay, interesting. Well, the reason I asked the question is that I thought that Hughes's corners were actually as good as anything we've seen put into the box this season. Don't forget, we haven't scored from a corner for goodness knows how long. We'll talk a little bit more about set pieces in a little while, but we're not very good at set pieces. And you could have your flair players receiving the ball, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, very true, very true.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. If you've got Eze and Elise on the edge of the box, if that corner is cleared, you've got a better chance of returning that ball and maybe scoring.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's move on because we're not going to have enough time to get through everything. Otherwise, if I may. So Chilwell then had a shot from distance, just over the bar. I have to say Henderson was nowhere near that one. França then had a decent strike from distance. I thought it was a really good effort. Well saved from a central position. And what I liked about that, it was a good decoy run from Mateta. Mateta, if you watch it back, he took two of the defenders away and it opened the space up for França to have the shot. So França, for me, could you play him in a number 10, just behind the front player? Jim, thoughts on that one?
Not yet. He's. I thought he had a good game the other night. He's a bit suspect, closing people down. I mean, he's still got the Brazilian. I think he might probably still think he's playing tippy-tappy football in Brazil, and I'm sure after he's had half a dozen games in this league, he'll realise that it's a little bit different. I mean, there was times when he went to close down. Other people were closing down around him, but he'd get about 5-6 foot away from somebody's stop and then just passed it by him. So, but I think that's just a little bit of experience. He couple of times he was uncertain of whether to carry on with the ball. I mean, he had one great run in the first half from our 18-yard box to theirs, and it was a minute, just another inch, and I think he would have got past that last defender. So he's got a lot of pace about him. And when he went through, I mean, if he'd have hit that shot where the keeper made a great save, if he'd have just hit that 6 inches the other side of him, the keeper had no chance. So I think it was nice to see. I mean, I think it was right to bring him off when he did. But I think he'll be a big impact player for us. Whether he can play number 10, who knows? But he's certainly got a bit of future about him.
He's got the X factor, isn't he? He certainly looks like he's got the X factor, and he can do something special with the ball. And I'm really pleased that he started last night because he really should have started against Brighton as well the week before. If Elise isn't playing, or Eze's not playing, you need a similar type player to come in, and he is that player. The other player that we haven't mentioned tonight at all is Edouard. He came off the bench. With his first touch, he plays Mateta in, which was half a chance. Some thought it was a penalty. It wasn't. It was coming together, and he gave it the other way in the end. But, some would say Edouard should have been given a chance as well last night. Maybe. I don't know. Thoughts on Edouard, everyone?
Well, unless you're going to play two up front, I don't think. He tends to play wide on the left when he does play. Yeah. So you've already got França there anyway. So, no, I think coming on when he did was a good decision, and he caused a few problems for Chelsea. And we had a little bit more luck. We might have just nicked something with ball was bobbling about in the 18-yard box for quite a while at one point. But no, he disappoints me. I watched him against Sheffield United, and we had worked our socks off. The two guys gone off injured. So the last 10, 15 minutes was backs to the wall. And Mateta had run himself stupid. And this guy come on, and he jogged about, not trying to close anybody down while we're trying to defend on the 18-yard box. And I thought, you're not for me, mate. He might have come here in glory from Celtic, but I don't think he's a Premiership player.
Interesting. Okay, George says Edouard should get a start. So, some support for him out there. He's not getting a start at the moment, and I think he's not doing enough. I agree with you, Jim, there. And Mateta is doing more when he is getting the minutes, which he is getting the majority of minutes up top to keep his place in the side. So, we go into 90 minutes, 6 minutes of stoppage time. And who does Chelsea bring off the bench? They bring off Raheem Sterling off the bench. A fresh Raheem Sterling, who's still a very, very good footballer. And he played a brilliant ball wide to Palmer. He picks out Conor Gallagher on the edge of the box. And that was a very good strike. You could ask the same question again of Dean Henderson. Should he have saved it? Should he have done better? I think we're probably going to get a similar conclusion to when we talked about the first goal. Then we try and salvage something from the game. The ball's lumped forward, everyone's pushed up. And you don't blame us for doing that, I would have thought. You've got to try and get something out of the game. It was a picture, watch back. Anderson was showing the most animation here when we conceded that second goal, saying, come on, lads, we can still get something out of this. And yeah, it wasn't to be. They hit us on the counter. And the third goal really was irrelevant. It doesn't really make a lot of odds one way or the other in the scale of things. So, can't knock us for trying, but it did feel like a bit of body blow last night. Would you agree with that comment, guys? Bit of body blow. We should have got something out of it, but just didn't have the rub of the green.
Yeah, I think that was more luck. I think the disappointment for me, and this is by Chelsea standard, right? I think that's a pretty poor Chelsea side. And to lose 3-1, I think the scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect their performance. They were pretty average in the first half, going nowhere. 2 goals in the last minute. I think we played a bit better than that. Do I think we deserved the point? I think we did. I think the game of I'm not going to say a fair result. They've won 3-1. It's a bigger scoreline. But yeah, I think I came away thinking that we probably were a bit hard done by. But the difference, and we sort of already said it in many ways. I think it was Jim earlier. They took the chances when they got them, and that's the difference really between your top 6 cartel and everybody else. They've just got that extra bit of quality, in the final third to make that difference, and that's really, in my opinion, where Palace are always going to fall short because Palace, West Ham, Aston Villas, your Bournemouths, we're all after the same players, and it's a bit of a lottery of who you end up with, and naturally, I think with I'm just going to use Calvin Phillips as an example. He would have never have come to Palace and would always have gone to maybe top 8 and above, and at the moment that's sort of the trapdoor. So that's no disrespect to our players. Chelsea they've got that bit of quality to win those games in that manner. We don't.
I bet Calvin Phillips is questioning his sanity now going to the Taxpayer Stadium, but there we are. Fergus, do you want to come in?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think for me, it was nice to see that certainly in the last 10 minutes, I think Palace were going for it, and you could argue there's a bit of naivety on our part because Chelsea have got the sort of players that will hit you on the break and cause you trouble. But I thought we were going to nick it towards the end. We were really trying, and as long as we keep doing that, you can't really criticise the team. Chelsea hit us on the break. We were pushing. It was unlucky, like Greg said. It was just unfortunate. And once that second goal goes in, the heads drop. And of course, like I said, Anderson was trying to motivate the team, and again, they're pushing forward to get that equaliser. And exactly the same thing, they hit us down that right-hand side where Mitchell's there. They know that's a weakness of ours. Yeah. Doubled up on him, and then you find yourself 3-1 down.
Sure. Nice. Let's have a look at the stats if we can for the game. Look at that possession. I don't know whether anyone could tell us whether that's the lowest possession we've had this season. I didn't research that before the pod. Somebody in the chat will know, but pretty low, just 23%. And yet equally, look at the shot distribution. My goodness, there's nothing to choose between us at all. They had 7 corners. We just had the one. We fouled them a little bit more, but given the possession, the end result isn't too shabby. I don't think really.
So presumably all 14 shots for Chelsea were in the second half, which shows how they've kicked into gear from the first half, where they were. It was like boring Arsenal from the early 90s.
Yeah. They did have one shot, didn't they, at the end of the first half? But there we are. Yeah, you're probably right. Majority of them. We've got some stats as well. Yeah, we've got some stats as well for the season so far, which are quite alarming. Nigel, are you there with those? Don't let me down. I haven't got there. There we are. Look, brilliant. Thanks, Nigel. So goals, we're 26 goals, 18th in the Premier League. Goal difference, 18th. Goals conceded in the final 15 minutes. We just talked about that. Really, really poor stat. Set piece goals we've talked about. Have we talked about those? Yes, we have. Yeah. Shot conversion, pretty rubbish. Save ratio, goodness me. And then the average age has gone up again. It was lower last season, wasn't it? I think from time to time.
Well, I mean that stat there, the average age starting, that you've got it. That's it. In fact, there isn't it that they're not prepared to play the youth.
Yeah.
There it is. If we're gonna, as fans, criticise the hierarchy for not playing the youth, there's your fact. It's there for all to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there was a question in the chat earlier. What does Jim think of the Holmesdale Fanatics protests? So while you're thinking about how to answer that question, Jim, here are some of the pictures from last night. They must have smuggled in about a dozen banners last night. It was ridiculous. Look, new one every 5 seconds going up. Supporters ignored and taken for granted. Weak club culture. Got a culture club there going on. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. So Jim, thoughts on the HF banner protests?
Well, I keep seeing a lot of social media and a lot of sort of men news in the papers, and it's always about that little group and their banners. But I look at it and I think there's 26,000 people in that stadium, and not anywhere else round there do people act like that lot who think they run the club. There's 1,000 of them. If they don't like the way we're playing, go and support somebody else. If you're going to get behind your team, I mean, there's 5 teams below us in the league. And looking at that game last night, and then players that we hope will get back in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to be all right, and we're going to finish in much the same position as we've probably finished over the last few seasons, which is 15th, 16th, whatever, 17th. It annoys me because it's all of a sudden all about the Holmesdale. Like God knows the people all around them, how they're thinking with that lot there. I just don't like it. I don't like the chairman has done everything he can. I mean, if they feel that strongly, buy the club and do what they want to do. If they got 100 million or 200 million to buy this club, it's very annoying because majority of them fans, we all have a moan, we all have a groan, we all moan about sometimes the way Roy plays. But if he had a full team for most of the season, like he did the last 12 games, we'd be probably sitting 8th in the league now if we could have played all our players. Plus the 2 additions that have just been brought in. Nobody's mentioned Wharton yet. I thought he was the best player on the park last night because the way he moved, the way everything he'd done, he'd already read the situation. And the 5 or 6 balls he threaded through in between centre-halves for people to run onto. We've not had that for a while. And Munoz, well, he was all over the shop. He was running up one line, down the other. And I think they'll be great additions. So I just get a bit annoyed. How can you ever go at a man that saved this club, spent the last 10, 11 years? He hasn't got the money to spend. He can't do nothing. So we've got to do it and work other ways. Roy might not be everybody's flavour. I mean, they slagged him off because of the Brighton fiasco, bringing Elise on. Yeah. But he was told he was fit. Now, them same guys would have gone mad if the Leafs had sat on that bench and Roy hadn't have put them on. So it's one of them. He do or die. He doesn't. Whatever he does, he's going to get slagged off. Who's going to come in and take over from him? Nobody. Cooper, he got sacked because he was crap at Forest. Potter, he got sacked with millions.
Keep your powder dry. We'll come to the managers in a minute, all right? So we're going to come to those guys in a minute.
But yeah, no, I don't. I think if they're proper fans, they would support, and all this flashes and all them things. That to me, that's just crap. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Very quickly, we haven't got as long as Jim gave there, but Ferg, Greg, your views on the HF banners very quickly.
Yeah, I think we're all passionate. We're all Palace fans, but like I say to most non-Palace fans, is you don't choose Palace for success. It's you just want passion from the team and from the club from within. I think probably some of those statements are unhelpful, but I understand where they're coming from. I just don't think that it's representative of the majority of fans. And look, they're allowed to express their opinion. Yeah, I just don't think it's necessarily that helpful.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Ferg?
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I mean, I think they represent a minority. They could probably do it in a more positive way. It can be quite toxic. Maybe through the FAB or something like that, you know.
Who knows? Who knows? Listen, we're not. I want to make this really clear. We're not hating on the HF on this show per se. They do a lot of good. They get the atmosphere going. They get the songs going. But sometimes it can seem to be all about them, and they forget that there's another 5,000 people supporting Crystal Palace in the ground. So yeah, we're with you on that. A lot of love for what you said, Jim, in the chat, by the way. A lot of supportive comments. Go into the chat and read it all afterwards. There we go. I just want to touch on set pieces as well. We've talked about that. We saw the stat. We were pretty rubbish on set pieces. Greg, just hold one sec. If we didn't get set piece, here we go. So who are the strongest from set pieces? There you go. Crystal Palace are bottom. We are worst at set pieces in the Premier League. Only 0.6 of a goal from 100 set pieces this season. We've had over 200 and we scored once, I think, or something like that. And what worries me is that our next opponents are best at this. All right. So that's quite alarming. And then defending set pieces, we are almost as bad. There we go. Forest are the worst. And we are 1, 2, 3. We're 6th worst. Manchester City being the best. And even teams like Fulham and Wolves are pretty good at doing this. We're not very good. Why do you think this is, guys? Why are we so poor at set pieces? Let me come to you first, Jim, very quickly, if you would.
Maybe we don't work on them the way we should. We, in my experience playing, they would always say it's hard to score a goal in 90 minutes, but you're given a chance when you get corners and free kicks. And I don't see nothing. I look at it not in a fan point of view. I always look at it. I'm looking for movement and little spin outs, and I don't see anything like that. I see balls just come in, and it's only because of the quality of balls that Eze and Elise can hit in that looks as if something's. But the players, I don't know if they've got a set piece guy that does things with them. But there's lots of times where, especially when you're out wider and they're almost coming in like corners, where you need more movement. The ones coming a bit sort of towards us that are outside the 18-yard box, they're whipped in. But you still got to work on who's going in. Can you go in and spin out? Can you take people away? Can you block people? Because that's like a big part of the game. Yeah. And I don't see any of that. I don't see nothing. So. And it's for a team like us who don't score a lot of goals in open play, that should be the most important thing that you can work on, other than try to play your shape.
I wonder why it doesn't work then. Fergus, have you got any views on why it doesn't work?
Well, isn't our set piece coach our goalkeeping coach?
I think so. Yeah,
we don't have anyone in the club that's actually got any set piece expertise. I don't think so. So that doesn't help. And I know a lot of those teams have their own dedicated set piece coach, don't they? So that's probably something the club need to look into. But I think we're too honest. I think there's a lot of teams. Jim mentioned it. Players running across, blocking people off. Not fouling the goalkeeper, but just doing enough to make it a little bit awkward for them. We don't do that. We're too honest, and I think maybe we just need to be a little bit more ruthless.
Yeah.
When we're in the box.
Okay. And Greg, sorry, you had your hand up a while ago. I didn't.
Yeah.
Apologies.
I don't wish to appear naive, and certainly don't mean to be flippant about it. But is there such thing as a set piece coach? I've seen a lot of comments saying we need a set piece coach. Is there actually someone within football clubs that's all they work on? Is that a
Apparently,
real
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. There's lots of teams have set piece coaches, just like you have your goalkeeping coach, and that's all they work on. So they just sit on computers, fiddle about who can do what, and then bring it onto the training ground. Yeah, loads. All the top clubs, I would think, would have a set piece coach.
Yeah.
So the way I think about it, right, is we're the lack of goals is alarming. And you're quite right, Jim, what you said earlier. When you get a corner, that is a really good opportunity. That is an opportunity to get the ball in the box. You would think that they would study videos of opposition teams, working out how they defend corners and trying to break that down. If other clubs have got that, if we're building academies and all sorts, what is the wage of one person or two people or the goalie coach? Learning that skill off of somebody else. I would have thought that investment into a coach like that for Palace, where goals don't necessarily they're not coming freely from open play. You'd think we'd want to be honing in on that.
100% right. Paul Bristow says Liverpool even have a throw-in coach. What's that about? Crazy.
We could do with a throw-in coach as well.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Yeah,
we could, and you're right. You're talking about upskilling people in the club, but even beyond that, you can just go out into the open market. I mean, what would you need to pay someone? $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, or something? I don't know. Quite a lot of money in modern terms, but
totally.
But with all the technology, though, AI, you probably don't need a coach. There's got to be some sort of algorithm out there.
They're not very good at it.
Yeah, they can run it against the video of Chelsea and they go, right, these are their weak points, and AI, and then they come up with some sort of set piece scenario and we win 4-0.
I think I'd like Rory Delap as our throwing coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, come back, Ian Hutchinson, all is forgiven. Okay, all right. So I think we could talk much more about that. I think, and maybe we'll revisit it on a future show. But there are things, guys, I need to fit in this evening. Otherwise, Nick will beat me up for not including them in the show tonight. So I just want to look at the loan watch now, Nige. So it's a quick account of how our players that are out on loan have fared recently. So Killian Phillips, guess where he is? He's at Aberdeen. Guess who's Aberdeen's manager? Neil Warnock. That's good for him, isn't it? Anyway, he came on at half-time for Aberdeen in a 2-0 home win against Bonnie Rig Rose in the Scottish Cup. My goodness me, who heard of that team? Owen Goodman, he's in goal for Colchester United, played the full 90 in a 1-0 defeat. Kofi Barmer played the full match for AFC Wimbledon and was booked in the 45th minute. John Kamani Gordon was not part of that squad in a 2-0 home win. Sean Grehan, is that how you say his name? He came on from the bench for Carlisle in the 75th minute. They lost 1-0 at home to Pompey. Ademola Ola Adebomi played 79 minutes for Burton Albion, got an assist in that game. And Teo Adaramola, he played the first 45 for Texter's RWD Molenbeek in a 4-0 defeat at home against Antwerp. Malcolm Abowie was on the bench and didn't get any minutes in that one. So that's a little roundup of the Loan Watch. The thing I want to talk about in the last 5-10 minutes or so, guys, is our manager. I think, Jim, you've already alluded to the fact that, Roy's here for the season may be, and, we've got to get behind him. But, that image there that you just had there, Nigel, on the screen, this is Roy on the touchline looking a bit forlorn. I think I said in my TNT Sport interview the other week before the Arsenal game that I thought Roy, although he says he's enjoying it, he doesn't look as if he's enjoying it. He looks sometimes like a lonely old guy, waiting for a bus standing there on the touchline. Question to you then, do we need a new manager now with 14 games to go? Or do we change the manager in the summer? Obviously, we change the manager in the summer. And if so, who do we get in? So who am I coming to first on this one? Fergus, Tid, you smirked and smiled as I said it. So you can speak first, my friend. Would you change Roy now? Would you sack him? And if so, who would you get in?
Right. With Roy, I don't think he's going to go. I think he's going to stay. Personally, no, I wouldn't sack him. I think any manager worth his salt that would come into the club now with our 4 best players out. I mean, you could argue that, well, how much of a difference is that going to make? And it's also a temporary measure, isn't it? Roy knows the club. Like Jim said, when we get our players back, we're a decent side. So I don't think we're going to get relegated. It's going to be closer than we all thought it was going to be. But I do put a lot of that down to the injuries. Who would I want to come in at the end of the season? I know we've got a list of managers somewhere, but if my first choice would be if Brentford got relegated, I'd go Thomas Frank, but he's not available.
No.
I do think the club have got someone lined up, which is why they're sticking with Roy, and that's either, I think, Potter or Southgate.
Okay.
I'd err on Southgate seems to be making a lot of noise about maybe not extending his contract and stuff, and he's always down around the club, isn't he? He's opened the academy and stuff like that. He's got a relationship with Paris, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, I'm going to come to Greg next, and then you last, Jim. Change Roy now if you had the choice, or would you wait till the summer? And if so, who are you bringing in?
Naturally, it's a really difficult question. What I think will happen is that Roy will see the season out. My thoughts on if you were to change the manager now, you would probably only get like a stopgap type manager, and I think because of that, you would probably run the risk of not really getting who you wanted. So I think I'll answer it it would be unpopular, but the only stopgap manager I can think of that would give me some confidence about survival is Sam Allardyce. He's done it before. I know. Like I said, it's an unpopular thought, but if you were to change the manager, that's who I would bring in. Who do I want as manager? I think out of the options available, I think Graham Potter is the best option available, and probably the safest pick.
Okay. Thanks for that, Greg. Thanks for that, Jim. Same question to you.
I mean, I can't see Roy. I can't see them sacking Roy unless we lose the next 3 games and they suddenly panic. But I think he'll be here till the end of the season, and then he will go. And your little caption of him standing there looking forlorn, he's never been anything other than that. If you go back 5 years ago, he stands there. He's never one that waves and shouts. He's got his little man at the side of him that runs on and screams. And I mean, bringing somebody in, well, I agree with the lads. There's nobody really that you would bring in and there would only be a stopgap. But I would just leave it as it is. New manager. Well, the best manager that looks like he might be going to get the sack is David Moyes. I mean, his team's in the top half of the league. The fans obviously don't like him. They've never really taken to him. and he's been very successful. So if he decides to go and Roy decides to go, why not David Moyes next year? He's
I've
handled
not heard that one before. I've not. No one's
he's
mentioned.
handled a European winning team.
Yeah.
He's got his team look good. All right, they get battered the other night. We've been battered, so it's all part and parcel of the game. But I would leave Roy for the time being, and I'm sure we'll get. We only need 3-4 wins, and we'll be more than safe.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look. We'll come to you in a sec, Greg. Let's have a look at the betting if we can. Or Greg, you talk. Well, we've got the betting. Here we are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So as you can see, Kieran McKenna is the favourite there. Steve Cooper and Oliver Glasner, who I believe is an Austrian manager who was recently in charge of Eintracht Frankfurt. Potter at 8-1. I don't think that. I think Scott Parker would probably prove pretty unpopular, and I think he would complain about the lack of transfer of money available. And then I forgive the pronunciation, Julian Lopetegui. I think he's quite fancied by a lot of Palace fans, and I've definitely seen rumours of him going to Man United at one point. And I think he's managed Real Madrid and the Spanish national side. So, 20-1 and then 25-1, Gareth Southgate, who I don't see that one happening, mainly because it's tournament year. And why would you come on the back of a tournament straight into a Premier League season where you wouldn't have had time to bring in your staff, etc.? That's why I don't think Southgate to Palace will happen. I'll level with you. I don't know who Bo Svensson is. Brendan Rodgers is at Celtic, isn't he? and I think we'd all love to see Mourinho at 33-1. Look, I mean, who wouldn't? That would be an exciting appointment. I think it would probably end in tears, if I'm honest. But I think it might be fun.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. But yeah, thanks for running us through that. Yeah,
be like a Thomas Brolin signing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bo Svensson is a Swedish. Oh no, that's the wrong one on Wikipedia. I really don't know who Bo Svensson is at all. Don't worry. Forget it. I was trying to be clever now. Okay, so I think the consensus is, Roy isn't going anywhere just yet, and when he does go, we've got 2 or 3 really good choices there. For me, I think, Greg, I'm with you. I think Graham Potter would be the best fit ahead of Cooper or anyone else. And a bit unpopular, your Moyes choice in the chat, Jim. Not too many people behind that.
That's why I like to say it.
But you never know.
He's a Scotsman. I've got to go for him.
There we go. And listen, he's had some experience. He's had some success in the past at Everton, obviously, and latterly at West Ham, you could say he's successful. Winning that European trophy, of course. So there we are, Greg.
I've got one last thing on the manager here, and this is food for thought. Not that I want this to happen, clearly not. But would your manager choice change if we were relegated?
I think it would have to. Change. And Jim, you made a very valid point in your summary there, that if we lost our next 3 or 4 games, then it does put a very different complexion on it. Because if we lost 3 or 4, the next 3 or 4, and we'll come to those games in a second or two, then we will probably be in the relegation zone, or if not, almost in it, depending on the sides, obviously, below us. So, everything's firmly crossed. We've seen signs last night. There was a massive improvement last night from the Brighton game. Let's be clear about that. We've seen the new boys, Adam Wharton and França, and the right back, who also had a good game, by the way, I thought, right back. I mean, he popped up on the left wing at one point, which I thought was quite refreshing, so he was here, there and everywhere. So I just think that we've got the with 1 or 2 to come back, I think we've got the quality to have enough not to get relegated. But if we did lose 3 or 4, then it would put a different complexion on it. And Greg, to answer your question, yes, it puts a very different complexion on a new manager. I just want to talk about very quickly other teams' results, because I need to squeeze this in as well. So we always talk on this show, it's not just about the first team. The under-21s, they won 1-0 against Ipswich Town on Monday, the 5th of February in the Premier League Cup. Well done to them. They go on to the next round. Their match against Spurs was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. The under-18s, they fell a foul to Chelsea as well, lost 2-1. This game was played at Selhurst Park in the FA Youth Cup on Thursday, the 8th of February. Well done if you made it down to Selhurst to watch that one. And then our women were also on the end of a reversed Chelsea in the Women's FA Cup. And that game was played last Sunday down at Sutton's Ground, I think. So, again, well done if you made it down to there. And I think it was a really good Palace contingent. No, I lie. That wasn't. That was away at Chelsea, that game. And Chelsea women are very good, by the way. I think they win leagues and that kind of thing. So no shame in that, Palace women. But you're out of the FA Cup. So where are we going now? Prediction time. How are we going to get on against Everton? We are Monday Night Football once again next weekend. I'm not going to Everton because it is my wedding anniversary, and I would be in big trouble if I went. We're actually away for a few days. Well done if you plan to make the trip to Everton. We do need the support inside Goodison Park. I'm going to ask you for your predictions on the game. I'm going to come to Jim first, then Ferg, then Greg. Quickly, your prediction for Everton v Crystal Palace, Jim.
A draw.
A draw. 1-1, 2-1, 1-0, 0-0.
2-2.
2-2. My goodness me. Greg.
1-1.
1-1. And Fergus.
2-1 Palace.
That's what we like to hear.
I'm going for a draw as well. I with you, Greg. I think 1-1. I'll take the draw now. They are 5 points behind us. It could be 2 points. It could be 5 points. It could be 8 points, the gap, depending on. So it's a massive game, and Sky will build it as a relegation battle for sure. But what about the next 4 games? Let's get those games back up again, Nige. I don't want to talk about all of them because that Newcastle one is likely to be rearranged anyway. But we have Everton away, Burnley at home, Tottenham away, and then Luton at home. So 2 away games, 2 home games. How many points are we getting in those 4 games, guys? Same order. Jim, first of all.
6 points.
6.
We'll beat Burnley and we'll beat Luton.
Okay, cool. But we're drawing with Everton, so sorry.
Well, that's home games and away games, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
So 7 points.
7 points. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know you wanted me to add up all the ones.
I just want to check whether you're good at maths, Jim. That's the main thing. So, yeah, so 7 points. Greg, how many points from you, mate, for those 4 games?
I'm inclined to think 7. Point against Everton. Palace have got to beat Burnley. There's no other result that really is acceptable. We will get an absolute hiding like we do annually at Tottenham, no doubt 3-4-0. It just always seems to be that way. And then away, it's home to Luton, isn't it?
Home to Luton, yeah. Good Luton team, though. They're doing well.
The reality there is you have got to get your 3 wins against Burnley, Luton, and Forest. Not an easy place to go, Forest. Not an easy team to beat, and it's the same for all 3. None of those are easy games. But if we are to stay up, that you have to win all. You've got to win them all.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't talking about the Forest game. I was just talking about 4 games, but never mind. That's fine. So you're going 7 points, Fergus.
Well, I've gone Everton win, Burnley win. I think Greg's right. I think we're going to get our a sound beating at Spurs, and I think we'll beat Luton at home.
Okay, so you have a 9 points.
I think they've gone through their I think they've gone through their purple patch, Luton. I think they're they're due a few losses now.
Yeah, they got beat by Sheffield United, didn't they, at the weekend? I'm just going to go for the 5 points. I think 2 draws and a win for me, and I agree with you. We'll lose at Tottenham. So we're on to our next show. Will be next Tuesday. I won't be here. I'll be in Cornwall. Nick will be back in the chair. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us this evening. And we want to just leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen, Palace fans. It is Pancake Day after all. Thanks for joining us. Very good evening.
See ya.
Good night, everybody.